Hi there. Welcome to the second book club discussion for Sonder Sisterhood. I'm Carrie, and this is a channel for the single and or childless, not by choice person. So today we are talking about The Next Happy by Tracey Cleantis. This is kind of the book that I wish I wrote. And I am actually really excited to talk about this book today because I think it's one of those books that really it can just be a turning point for people. And really, when we talk about grief, acceptance, and ultimately, one of the large themes that I took away from this book is it's okay to give up, right? And it's okay to have new dreams. So, if I had to really conceptualize this book, the book is about kind of giving up on a dream when it's no longer serving you to have that dream. When the dream becomes destructive to you in a variety of different areas. And it's also about validating how difficult that can be, how, in a lot of ways, at least in the United States, how countercultural it can be to give up on a dream. And it's about giving you permission to do that. We'll get more into sort of the never give up concept in a little bit. But this is a book that when you're ready for this message, and even before you're ready, it can help plant some seeds for when you're ready in the future. It's about, okay, it's okay to give up on a dream. You do have to acknowledge it, you have to grieve it. And then there may be other dreams out there waiting for you. It doesn't mean that dream no longer matters, but let's give room for something new that can happen. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. If I missed certain kind of element of it, let me know. Again, one of the things that I love about this book is just the phrase, the next happy. For many of us, we kind of grow up thinking about having a family, maybe having a partner, having a family, having a kids. That's what's going to make me happy in life. We are fed that information through a ton of different sources. It's also something that's pretty uh cross-cultural. A lot, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, what your skin color is, what your socioeconomic status is, kind of how you grew up. That's really a pretty consistent thing is, hey, you get married and you have kids. And that's what having a fulfilling and meaningful life is. And so for many of us, that's the dream that we have. And we believe in order to be happy, we have to fulfill that. And if we try hard enough, we will get there. If we want it, we will get there. If we manifest it, if we leave ourselves open to it, we will get there. And that's not true. So, the first topic or kind of topic of discussion that I wanted to bring forward and talk about really is that whole idea of never giving up. And she even really talks about in this book that it's actually really dangerous advice. And so I'm curious, either in the chat or in the comments, what do you think about that? The whole idea that it is a failure to give up on something. Think about it. There's so many quotes. She calls like the platitudes, right? About never give up, keep going. It'll happen when you least expect it. When we think about partnership and children, there are tons of kind of flippant things that people say in order to encourage somebody not to give up. When sometimes the most healing thing might be to give up. She talks about for her how this dream of having a kid kind of became destructive. It was no longer serving her. It was impacting her financially, psychologically, relationally, physically. And so how much are we going to put ourselves through? And this was something that I related to. I think particularly when you're childless by circumstance, I'll speak for me, it can be very easy to think there's more that I can do. And it doesn't mean you don't have choices out there, but for me, those choices weren't what I wanted to do, right? Like I didn't want to adopt. And so while there may be things like that out there, they weren't right for me. And so at what point do you say, this is actually a destructive force in my life, centering my life around this dream? I was feeling awful about myself, feeling like a failure. Self-worth was getting wrapped up into this. And so it was no longer serving me to try and push for this. It was making me miserable. It was making me feel isolated. It was making me feel like a failure. I was constantly stuck in my head. I was constantly living in the past. What if I would have done these other things? And I think when you're childless by circumstance as well, it's a series of decisions or things that don't happen. And the concept of having this stopping point is a little bit more nebulous. For her in the book, it was fertility related. So she stopped fertility treatment. It- but I think when it's childless by circumstance, there's not really a stopping point to it. Many of us continue to, try and find a life partner or someone who we want to hang out with. And it more so is this slow dribble onward. And so this idea of kind of intentionally having a stopping point gets harder. And she really talks about in the book part of the process in deciding that you're going to, quote, give up is intentionally marking that, intentionally saying, "Listen, this is no longer serving me and I'm done with this." For my experience, I kinda had 2 points related to that. I had the one point where I was like, "This is no longer serving me. I am miserable. I feel like" well, I already said all that, right? Like, here's how I feel. It like, psychologically, this is not serving me. Relationally, this is not serving me. And it's probably not going to happen, and so I'm going to give up on that. And then I had more of a finality to it when I had a hysterectomy. Then that was absolutely like no sort of silver lining of hope was back there in the distance. So she really talks about this concept of, first of all, it's okay to give up. And when I first read that that like blew my head. That like blew my brain. I was like, "Oh yeah, it actually is okay to give up." And even I it's funny, right? Because even as I'm sitting here saying the words "give up," I like feel uncomfortable even just saying, "Yeah, it's okay to give up." I'm wanting to like quantify it or call it something different or couch it in a different way.